Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to part 2 of Real Talk. Today we're talking about health related issues, and in particular this disease which is hepatitis, which comes in different forms, hepatitis A, B and C. And I'm sure many of you will recall that if you go to the Middle East, in particular for Hajj or Umrah, then that is one of the vaccinations that you have to prove that you've taken, which is for hepatitis B, and without that you will not get a visa to get into Saudi Arabia, and also in other parts of the world as well. I have with me Shabana Begum, who is the project coordinator for the Hepatitis C Trust, and she covers the whole of the UK. And we've been going through some information about how does this disease transmit itself, how does it affect people, what sort of symptoms does it sort of manifest itself in, and what sort of response people can make to try and avoid or deal with it. Now, one of the questions I had, Shabana, for you is, in terms of gender, is there a sort of divide as to whether it's male or female who are predominantly affected, or is it equal, anybody can get affected?
It's near enough equal, but there have been some cases that are more men than women,
Right.
because I think women, because they actually access health facilities more than men.
Right, yeah.
And men tend to think, oh, I'm okay, I'm a bloke, I should put up with it, kind of
macho
thing.
thing, yeah.
It's a macho
It's
thing.
the macho thing, yeah, yeah.
So unfortunately, a lot of men have been affected with hepatitis as well, hepatitis C as well, whereas women have been picked up than men,
And how is it picked up? What sort of test do GPs or others need to carry out to find out whether you are affected by hepatitis?
Well, the thing is, if you go to your GP,
Right.
he will do a straightforward test, which is a liver functions test,
Right.
LFT test. But if you find somebody in the community, like I work in the community as well a lot, and my colleagues do also, the peer project that we run as well, is that basically we go into the community setting and we offer antibody tests.
So these are tests that are outside the NHS?
They are, yes.
Right.
Well, we're kind of related with the NHS in the way that we're working with them. We are an independent, Hep C Trust is an independent charity,
Right.
but obviously you have to liaise with other organisations to make things work. So we work in collaboration with the NHS and public health as well.
Right. So you go to community centres, for example,
Yes.
where people gather and so are your people who do the test, are they qualified people who, like nurses are, for example?
Very much so.
Or they obviously
yeah.
must be trained?
They are medical professionals,
Right.
and we do have volunteers. We have dedicated staff from the Hep C Trust that is fully trained up as well.
Right.
I myself am trained. Whichever area we go in, I will approach public health, and through them I will approach the hepatitis specialists, the hepatitis C nurses, like we do in Leeds, in Manchester as well, from the hospitals themselves. They will come out and
Right.
help and supervise.
Right.
I'm not a medical professional.
Right. Okay.
I work from experience, and I've been trained by BRI as well
Right.
to perform these.
BRI is Bradford Royal Infirmary.
Bradford Royal Infirmary.
For people living outside Bradford,
Yes.
they will not know what it is. So BRI is the Bradford Royal Infirmary, which is the biggest hospital in this area. Yeah.
And I've been trained by the specialist there to do the dry blood spot test, which is like a diabetes test.
Right.
And within 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you will know whether you have antibodies to the virus.
Okay.
And once
So this test is like,
Yeah.
you prick your finger like the
Yeah,
people
yeah.
who's diabetic do, and then you take the sample of the blood and you test it.
And we put it in a cassette. If you've been doing, everybody knows what lateral flow testing is at the moment. So you get a little cassette, and we put the
Blood sample on it. I presume.
the blood sample in it, and within
Right.
15 minutes it will show us one line
Right.
that it's worked and it's negative, or two lines that it's positive.
Okay. So it's as simple as that, I presume, and you would encourage people to take it. Now, is there an age issue here? Are there sort of young people, older people,
It can affect anybody and everybody.
Right.
Hepatitis B, like I mentioned earlier, can be transmitted from partner to partner, from husband to wife, or mother to child as well during childbirth, if they've
Right.
taken, because that's bodily fluids and blood. And in hepatitis C, it's blood and blood only.
Right.
So it's got nothing to do with hepatitis B. It's got nothing to do with HIV.
So it's nothing to do with personal
AIDS or
contact
anything.
with individuals.
No, no.
It's only if it's blood.
If there is blood present.
Yeah.
Yeah, only if there's blood present.
Right.
And the thing is, at the end of the day, like I mentioned earlier, that there is a treatment and there is a cure as well. I'm living proof of that the treatment works.
Right.
When I had the treatment, it was a 6-month treatment.
Right.
It wasn't a very nice treatment. It was injections, self-administered, and tablets I had to take. But now there's such a quick and easy treatment. It's one tablet a day,
Right.
depending on what stage your liver disease is. If it has got,
Right.
gone
But
to
you
that
said at
point.
the beginning it's a killer
Yes.
disease.
It's a killer
Right.
disease, but
So
we're very
the
lucky.
percentage of recovery from it?
It can be 90 to 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really depends on what stage
It's caught.
it's caught. I
Right.
mean, the older we get, the more health issues we have. Like you mentioned earlier, we have diabetes or heart disease or something like that. And the medication then obviously will counteract with whatever other medication that you're taking. You have to be
Right.
very careful. Because,
Okay.
but this medication virtually has no side effects.
Right.
The new treatment, and it can be from 9 to 13 weeks.
Right. So and then, inshallah, hopefully people are cured.
Alhamdulillah, you'll clear the virus straight away.
Right. Well, that's very.
And it
so
prevents
the success,
you. Yeah,
the success of the treatment is quite phenomenal. Then,
it is.
and obviously, I hope our viewers, none of them are suffering. But if you are or have suffered it, or you know somebody who has, and you'd like to share your experience of it, whether it was good or bad or indifferent, or in particular, how did the medical professionals, respond to your issues? Because one of the questions I wanted to ask Shabana was, I mean, not many people, like, even I had heard about hepatitis, but wasn't aware of some of the details that you've given. But are GPs au fait with it? Or are they, there are some areas where GPs are not even aware of certain conditions in relation to certain diseases. Are they familiar with this hepatitis, its impact on the Asian community? Because when I was asking Shabana during the break, what percentage of our population is affected by hepatitis, and she gave me some interesting figures. In the non-Asian community, in every 100 people, 1.5 may be affected by hepatitis, particularly hepatitis C. Whereas in the Asian community, sub-Asian continent community, the number goes up from 1.5, almost doubles to 3, and sometimes even 5, and that is dependent on how often maybe people will be traveling around the world and going to places like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and parts of Africa, I presume. Now, obviously, so there's a push to try and get people in our community to recognize it, which is where your role comes in.
Yes.
How closely do you work with the GPs around this issue?
I work quite closely with the GPs.
Right.
I am associated to a few, you could say, medical associations, doctors associations that help me a lot as well on the way. Like, for example, if we're working in the community and I need help and assistance, they're a phone call away. So we work very closely. When it comes in terms of educating the GPs, going back 15, 16 years, they didn't have a lot of knowledge about it, because when we were
Right.
testing for Hep C testing, like I was mentioning, within the community, and the test was positive, the pathway was to send them then to the GP with a letter explaining why we had tested within the community.
So were people, I mean, for example, I have a blood test every year,
Yes,
an automatic, I call myself my MOT, right? So I have,
it's not included.
yeah.
You
Is
have
that-
to request it.
You have to actually request.
You have to request the
Right.
test, yeah.
For example, for males, there's a thing called PSA test, which I don't think was standard. That's to do with the prostate, which is something
Yes.
that affects males.
Yeah.
And therefore, I've been saying to all my friends, make sure, after you're at the age of 45, that you ask for a PSA test. Now, I presume you're saying that this is not a standard test.
It's not a standard test that
Right.
takes place unless it's part of a campaign.
Right.
We've done a couple of campaigns over the years. One was a 5-year campaign called a Hep Free Project, and where I actually made phone calls to the patients from the surgeries, inviting them in to get tested, and that was
Right.
quite successful as well. So, but other than that, at the moment, if you're watching me, right, watching ourselves speak about hepatitis, and you have a query regarding it, go to your GP, ask him for a test. You have to ask him for a test.
And are GPs willing to provide that test easily?
They are now, because of the national campaigns that are running.
Right, okay.
I mean, Gilead is a pharmaceutical company, and they've actually backed with the NHS and with ourselves at the Hep C Trust a new campaign called Hep C Gi, meaning
Right.
what? What is hepatitis?
So is
And
that
you
aimed at our community?
That's aimed specifically at our
Particularly
community.
the Urdu
Yes.
speaking?
Urdu,
speaking
Bangla
Punjabi,
speaking,
yeah,
Punjabi
community.
speaking. because obviously because the percentage is so high,
Right.
and because of COVID, everything, as you know, was being cancelled and everything went back on the back burner. With the South Asian community, unfortunately, was the same as well. However, saying that, we have 22 ODNs, which are operational delivery networks.
What is ODNs?
Operational delivery network.
Right.
They've been set up by the NHS, and basically they manage certain areas, certain hospitals,
Right.
and cohorts of hospitals. So within West Yorkshire, we've got Leeds, Wakefield, Dewsbury,
Right.
Bradford, Huddersfield, you know, and Pontefract. So we've got a very up to Hull as well, I think. So all of Yorkshire is covered under the ODN, and
So
they
is
make
this a
sure that
separate-
all
is
the
this-
hospitals.
Is this a separate team of people? or is it-
It's everybody coming together.
Right. Okay.
So it's all the heads or the specialists and the nurses, and we have representatives from the Hep C Trust as well. Pharmaceutical companies come in as well. So it's basically, it's all the people that are very hands-on
Right.
that sit on that panel then.
Mhm.
And then they discuss exactly what has happened and how many people have been treated, if there are any problems, how to overcome those problems.
Right.
And that's a quarterly meeting. And I'm very proud of saying this, even though we were in lockdown, we were able to approach and treat over 435 people just in Yorkshire,
The whole of Yorkshire.
in the, well, West Yorkshire,
Right. Oh, West Yorkshire. Right. Okay.
which is our remit.
Right. Okay.
So, and that's through lockdown.
Right. Oh, that's
You
very
know,
good.
which- so
Because
we've
obviously
saved that
we
many
know
lives.
for a fact that during the lockdown, you know, the waiting list, the NHS waiting list has exponentially grown so much that I think I read a figure somewhere. There's probably 14 million people now waiting for their treatment on the waiting list. So obviously,
Yeah.
you know, this to do that is quite a remarkable. In the sense, I mean, you know, with GPs not offering this, do the patients have the right to ask for
They do.
that particular liver function test, as you say?
Yeah, yeah.
So
we
you-
can't say that you can demand a
Right.
test. You can request a test.
Right, okay.
You know, but there are other like gum clinics. They can go there as well. Sexual health clinics.
Right, okay.
You
I
can
was going
walk
to say, what
in.
is gum clinic?
Sexual health clinics.
Right.
Or if you know any drug rehabilitation agencies, you can go there as well.
Right,
And they will basically offer you the test.
right. So but you can't access it yourself. You have
No.
to go to an
Yeah,
agent,
you have-
one of the agencies.
Yes, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of people who are susceptible to this, you know, you talked about transmission through blood
Yes.
in terms
Yeah.
of hepatitis C, whereas the other hepatitis A, B, you know, could be personal transfer between
Or eating
people,
food,
right?
yeah.
Or via food. Now, you know, are there other means in which people can contract hepatitis C in particular, which is dangerous? You know, people who share, you know,
Sharing razor blades.
all right, okay,
So, for example, father at home, you know, like the first shave, or you can use my razor blade to the son. He might have hepatitis, he didn't know.
all right,
He might share this razor blade with his son, and he gets a nick, and then it's been transferred into the son.
oh my
It's
goodness.
very, very simple. I mean, in Pakistan, we did, I went with my Hep C nurse to Pakistan, and we actually were on a, you could say, a research trip. And we went from Karachi, from Aga Khan Hospital in Karachi, all the way up to Gilgit, going to all the major medical institutes
Right.
and facilities there. And we gave talks, and we went into back streets seeing what the practices were. So you'll see, you know, when you're in the village, this lady will come round, I'm not with bracelets, look at that, in a chaba, big
Right.
baskets of bracelets. And they'll actually do ear piercings and nose piercings as well.
Right, yeah.
That needle hasn't been sterilised.
Hmm.
Yeah. If
So
go
is
into
the
back
prevalence
streets-
of hepatitis C, I don't know whether you've done studies or not, back
Yeah.
home,
Yeah,
is it much higher
it's very much
than
higher.
it is here
There's
Right.
whole areas that are
Right.
suffering
from hepatitis C?
from hepatitis C.
And in terms of death,
Whole postcodes,
Yeah,
you could
yeah.
say, yeah, suffering.
in terms of, you know, fatalities,
Yeah.
somebody can, you know, say 100 people get hepatitis C in the UK.
Mm.
How many are likely to survive?
It
You know,
depends if
providing
they go,
the
yeah.
treatment is,
I can't really say, to be
Right.
honest, but the
Mhm.
thing is, whoever has gone on treatment, has cleared it.
right. And if they don't, then obviously, and you know, once they've been
It's very
diagnosed,
rare.
I mean, I know, for
Yeah.
example, pancreatic cancer, for example, if you got pancreatic cancer, you know, I know some friends who had it, unfortunately, and they passed away. May Allah give them the highest place in Jannah.
I mean,
They were both given 6 months.
Yeah.
6 to 7 months, and said, and unfortunately that prediction came true, that they were within 6 months they'd passed away. Is there a sort of similar time scale that if you don't get it treated, if you don't catch it, you don't get it treated, you go away very quickly?
You can do, but then it depends on your lifestyle as well.
Right.
How good you are to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had colleagues that hadn't had the treatment at that time. They were waiting for the new treatment to come in, but their lifestyle was really,
So what
really
sort of
good.
lifestyle do you mean? What do you do?
Very healthy.
What do people need
no
to do?
No drinking, no smoking.
Right.
Healthy food. We have a lot of samosas and onion bhajis and pakoras and stuff like that.
It.
Oh, well, no,
tell me
no.
about it. Right.
Looking at me, you wouldn't be thinking that. But you have to have a healthy diet. You have to have a healthy diet to prolong your life.
Right.
The rest is up to Allah anyway. But we have to try our best. I mean, I've known people that would. I've had cousins in Pakistan that I actually helped diagnose with hepatitis. They were both at the same stage. The liver disease was at the same stage. One only last after I had her diagnosed, and we went through the test, and they said she's only got a year or so. She lived 15 months, and that's because some of the time she was being very good with her diet.
Right.
My other cousin actually died 2 years ago on World Hepatitis Day, which is the 28th of July.
Right.
And I was like, he was the same age as me. And I was like, do you know what, you're never going to let me forget the day you went.
Of course,
because we celebrate World Hepatitis Day. Now, even this year, World Hepatitis Day, 28th of July, it's been 10 years that it's been celebrated globally.
Right, okay.
And it's basically raising awareness of hepatitis.
So when you say healthy lifestyle,
yes,
it is mainly to do with food.
Yes.
What sort of type of
exercise,
food, they should avoid? What sort of food should they avoid? I mean, I know you said samosas and pakoras. That's given easily.
That's standard, isn't it? Fish and chips as well.
Right.
Anything that has high fats in.
Right.
Anything that has high salt in.
Okay.
Spicy food.
Right. That's me out there. That's me out then.
I mean, I would rather. I mean, going down the food, it's more healthier to have a green chili rather than a red chili.
Right.
I mean, you will hear this from a lot of people, that deal with healthy food. But it's very easy. Have more boiled rather than, spiced up food. Our curries are amazing, but they can do you a world of damage rather than a world of good.
Right. Well, obviously some people would say turmeric is supposed to be really good for you.
Turmeric is very good for you.
But
all the other spices that we put in, so...
All right. I mean, coming back, obviously, this is an issue that's probably new to a lot of people that, my viewers and viewers of Ikra TV. I mean, going forward, what is your organization doing to raise more awareness? I mean, thank you for coming here today, and I hope by your being here and people hearing about your work and this issue around hepatitis, that more people get informed around it.
Inshallah.
But I mean, beyond that, what are you doing as an organization, not just in our community, but wider, in terms of raising awareness about this particular issue?
We have a parliamentary group.
Right.
So obviously they do all the parliamentary policies and procedures.
Right.
We have, obviously we have our media people as well on board. Facebook pages, website, we tweet a lot as well, Instagram, everything. What we have done this year is, from time to time, we run campaigns from the Hep C Trust as well. And this year, it was a challenge for the World Hepatitis Day to actually walk, cycle, run around the world. And we've been able to accomplish that as well, alhamdulillah. And we've had other people coming on board doing that as well. It's basically getting people involved. If we're in Leeds, it was another agency that we work with, Forward Leeds, and the ODN as well, the specialist nurses from Leeds Hospital. They were there in the centre of Leeds. They had spin bikes, and they were biking around the world. So basically, anybody sees anything out in the public, they'll come up and say, well, what are you doing? And we will give them information and talk to them about it,
so
and point them in the right direction.
So you hold stalls and things like that in town centres, shopping centres and places like that?
Community centres, anything and everything out in the public. Of recent times, because of COVID, what I've successfully been able to do is piggyback with the public health and NHS onto the back of vaccine pop-up clinics. So if you receive a Pfizer vaccine, you're asked to wait 15 minutes. And they've actually said that, right, Shabana, you can come on board and you can test people for hepatitis at the same time as well.
While you're waiting?
while you're waiting.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So we've been doing that in
I-
Kirklees so
yeah,
far.
I mean, I had my AstraZeneca jab, and he was told to wait for 10 minutes. And, nobody approached me.
I had my AstraZeneca as
Right,
well.
yeah.
Double jabbed, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm double jabbed.
Good.
Don't worry, I'm double jabbed. Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, I mean, this is something that, as I say, I'd heard about hepatitis. I was aware that some people are affected by it, but I wasn't sure exactly what it was and how it affected people in the day-to-day lives. But I mean, if you have, God forbid, Allah bachaye, you have hepatitis C,
Ji.
how does it restrict your life, day-to-day life? What's the impact does it have on that?
Well, when I was diagnosed, tested and diagnosed, before I actually went on treatment, I came back home and told my mum.
Right.
And she basically said, don't talk about it. And I said, why? It's not something that you can talk about. I go, Mum, why? She goes, you're very persistent, aren't you? She goes, it's passed on from husband to wife. And it's spread like water.
Right.
It's that common. So everybody knows about it, but nobody wants to talk about it. So that's the main stigma behind it, And I think when I actually had the treatment, it was very, very difficult. Like I explained, it was a difficult treatment. And talking to people, they take a step back. Oh, okay, you've got something that is, I'm lost for words now. You can catch it very easily by touch, or, you can't share. You can't.
People have misconceptions.
Misconceptions. You can't, you can't drink from the same glass or eat from the same plate.
Same happened
So
with
you have to
AIDS,
separate
yeah.
all your cutlery.
Yeah.
Your towels have to be separate. Or don't hug my child. That was another one that I came up across as well. That you might, give it to him. And it's not like that. I mean, we have so many misconceptions. Lack of understanding.
Right.
They
It's
call
lack
it
of
stigma.
knowledge, isn't it?
A lot of people say it's stigma.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
tend to say no, it's a lack of knowledge
Yeah.
that we have. We have to give the knowledge to people to be able to understand. It's like a lot of diseases. If we don't talk about them, how
Because
will
people feel
know?
that it might be contagious.
That's the word I was looking for.
It
Thank
might
you.
be contagious, you see.
Yeah.
And therefore they're afraid of it because they don't have the knowledge
They don't have the
about
knowledge.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And therefore, and you can understand why people might want to say, "Mere bacche ko touch na karna," because you might be infected, and my child will be infected as well. So they want to protect themselves rather than anything else.
Exactly.
But I mean, in terms of, as I say, the day-to-day lives, mashallah, like you say, you've recovered, and I'm sure many people now, you said there's a new treatment, but when they have the effect of this illness, does it restrict them in any way? Does it sort of challenge them in having to do things?
Like I said, I was suffering from anxiety and a lot of mood swings, and I was very, God forgive me, I was very bad to my children.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I'd go
But
into my room
is that
and
because
cry.
of hepatitis thing?
That's because that's one of the symptoms.
Is that the symptom? Right.
That's one of the symptoms. I would go into my room and cry and then say, Ya Allah, this isn't me, why am I doing this?
Right.
Right. But when I was on treatment, it was a very harsh treatment, chemotherapy. And I was out of...
So is that how you was treated before with chemotherapy?
Yes, yeah. It is chemotherapy.
Right.
The treatment is a form of chemotherapy.
Oh, right.
I would have the injection on a Wednesday,
Right.
and by Friday, before Friday, I wasn't able to get out of bed, and I'd suffer from a very high temperature.
Right.
I was incapable of doing anything, and my daughter would lie in bed next to me, and I'd say, "Beta, can you give me some water?" And she'd give me some water. I couldn't even lift a glass.
Right.
And the fourth, fifth day, I'd get a bit better, but then by then I'd sort of suffer withdrawal symptoms that I needed the injection again. But with the new and that I had to put my life on 6 months old.
Right.
But with this, it's nobody would know you even got it.
So it's
You'd
just
be on the
one tablet a
treatment.
day.
One tablet a day,
Right,
and you
depending
go
on-
about your business as you would.
Right. So,
So
mashallah,
it's that encouraging.
that's
yeah.
a huge improvement
Huge.
from what you described you had to go through.
Yeah.
So people don't need to be afraid
No.
of going for this treatment.
Because I think before they were afraid. They go,
Yeah.
oh no, it's such severe side effects. Either we take the treatment or either we go to work.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because obviously people are afraid of chemotherapy, the side effects of chemotherapy as well.
Yes, very much
Because
so.
people lose their hair, for example, they lose weight, they lose their appetite.
I did both. I lost my
Right.
eyelashes and almost my eyebrows as
Oh,
well.
right.
I lost a lot of weight, which was really good. I was happy with that. But
Well, I don't think anybody wants to lose weight that way with that illness, to be
no,
honest
no,
with
no,
you.
because the
Yeah.
side effect, the one that I suffered majorly was I had mouth ulcers and stomach
Right,
ulcers.
right.
So I was on baby food,
Oh, my
tepid
goodness.
food. I couldn't drink tea. I couldn't drink cold water. and that was the reason why I actually lost weight as well.
All
But the
right.
hospitals used to every month call you in for a blood test just to see that you weren't going anemic or anything was going wrong and the treatment was working.
Or you regressing.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
but Alhamdulillah, I cleared the treatment after 6 months.
Subhanallah.
And I just made dua to Allah Ta'ala that please give me a new lease of life, and every breath I take I will raise
And
awareness and
I
help
know, I
save
know you
lives.
said that, you know, this is transmitted through
Yes.
blood, etc., etc.
Mm.
And where somebody is, you know, is got hepatitis C in particular, if they transmit it through blood between partners or friends, is it hereditary in any way?
No.
There's not, definitely not hereditary.
Not
so,
hereditary.
So you know, if you've
not
got
as far as I know. no.
right, so you know, doesn't transfer itself through generations in that sense.
No, no.
Right.
No.
That's just okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, your organisation, as you say, works with a lot of other organisations.
Mm.
What sort of support organisations do you work with around this area? You know, Huddersfield, Bradford,
We've got
Leeds,
we've got something called the Bridge Project.
right?
That is, I think, Halifax and Huddersfield, and we've got Forward Leeds.
Right.
Amongst them, we've got other organisations as well, but mainly we work with the hospitals.
Right.
And if we find anybody on the streets, that's another project which is very successful. We've got awards for that as well, the Pay Project. And it's basically getting peers, our peers are actually, majority of them are ex-drug users.
Right.
So when they are when they're cleared,
Right.
they're clean of drugs. They've done, you know, and then after that, they work with the organisation as volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
We train them up, and
Right.
if they're happy and we're happy and there's a post available, we will give them a job as well.
Right. Well, good.
Right.
So I
and
mean,
then
you've
with
just
that,
raised,
they will,
another
with
question.
that, they will actually go into the community,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they will pace the streets of the areas where they used to go to, or other areas. They are then experienced in talking the talk and
Yeah.
walking the walk
I
because
mean, you
they've
just
been
raised a
there.
very important point here in the sense
Ji.
that people who are drug users,
Ji.
maybe they're sharing needles, they may be sharing
Yeah,
other stuff, they are more susceptible, I presume, to hepatitis C because
They
of the
are
fact that
both for HIV, hepatitis
Yes.
as well. Could be B or could be C. But the thing is, once they've cleared it through treatment, then they're okay. They're human beings like me and you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying
Yeah.
the fact that they may be sharing stuff puts them in the vulnerable group, doesn't it?
It does, because
Yeah.
obviously when they're in that state of mind, they don't think that they're using the same, paraphernalia, drugs paraphernalia, be it needles, be it snorting cocaine, using a note or something like that. They'll use a
Right.
note and share the note between them. The lining of the nose is very, very fine
Yes, it is.
and
yeah.
delicate. And if there's a drop of blood in that and they're sharing it around, transmitted that way. If
Right.
they're using syringes and they're boiling water in, if you've ever seen, they'll heat up a teaspoon of water and they're using the same water over and over again. It could be transmitted. There's so many ways that it can be transmitted. I mean, I honestly, I had a very, you could say, shielded upbringing. I knew nothing about this until I actually started working for the Hep C Trust.
Right, right.
And now I have been to locations where you wouldn't think normal Muslim women would go.
Right, yeah.
I've been into prisons and talked. We have so many Asian people in prison.
Yes,
They have,
unfortunately we do.
they
yes.
have a concept, unfortunately, they have a concept there that is called an opt-out, right? So when somebody goes into prison and signed up, they will be offered testing and you can opt out of it. So they will be offered a Hep C test, B and C test.
Is that automatic?
That is automatic.
Right, okay.
Almost every prison around the country will offer this, and our Asian community members will say, no, we're fine, we don't want it. I went to a prison in Doncaster, and there was, I think 30% of the population there was
Asian Muslims.
Asian Muslims,
Yep.
and we just went in
I've
there.
been
I
there,
went
yeah.
in my T-shirt and everything, you know, for the Hep C Trust gear, and went in there, and I says, Bhai Sahab, do you know what hepatitis is? No. But because being an Asian woman and because I was, I think, being friendly enough, right, they approached me. And when I educated them, offered them the testing, they were negative, but then they went back and bought the other inmates out as well.
Right, okay.
So I was able to test all of them there. So
Oh, that's
that
good.
really worked. But what I was trying to say is that don't opt out for testing. You must go and
Yeah.
get tested if there is testing available. Almost all the prisons throughout the country, be it the women's prisons or the men's prisons. We've got Newall, which is local to us.
Right.
as far as I know, they're clear of hepatitis now.
Right, okay.
We have a goal, global goal is 2030.
Right, inshallah.
Ours is 2025, inshallah, for the
Inshallah,
UK.
yeah.
So we're trying to achieve that
And
elimination goal.
are we seeing hepatitis C and hepatitis generally growing, or is it reducing in our community?
The thing is, because of lockdown, we weren't able to do a lot,
Right.
right, within the South Asian communities.
Mhm.
But the problem we're trying to tackle, there are some areas throughout the UK that have been successfully been able to tackle the problem,
Mhm.
try and eliminate it, and they brought this elimination to the forefront rather than at
Right.
the back. So they're saying now that, you know, COVID is almost over, we need to bring it to the forefront. We need to eliminate by 2025
Right.
because the global, by WHO,
Mhm.
global elimination is 2030. We need to do it before that. And there are
Right.
some countries around the world that have been successful as well.
Right.
So it can be done.
Is that by education, informing people?
It's the education, it's by holding screening sessions, going to locations, you know, like they're doing with COVID at the moment, going into mosques, because we advised them, you have to take the facilities to the people.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
people won't come to you.
Yeah,
So that's what we've been doing as well.
Mhm. Yeah, but I've never heard of anybody sort of coming around or being in town somewhere and seeing anybody sort of offering tests on hepatitis.
Yeah.
That in my experience, so obviously.
Well, you will. I think we'll hit Batley soon.
All right, yeah,
Soon
fine.
enough.
Yeah.
In Huddersfield, I've been able to do that successfully. In Bradford, we've been doing that. In London, they've done that as well. They piggybacked onto the COVID
Right.
jabs as well. So it's happening.
Okay, I mean that's
It's
good news.
happening.
But I mean, in terms of moving forward,
Gee.
what more do you want our community to be doing? I mean, obviously, one thing
It's
is
spreading the word. Yeah.
possibly is asking GPs to do the liver function test
Yes.
for every individual.
Yeah.
But as a community, what should we do?
As a community, it's down to education.
Right.
Now, for example, like you said, you didn't know much about hepatitis C when we had this started with the interview. You do now, alhamdulillah. So if you were to tell 10 people or the listeners or the people that are watching your audience, alhamdulillah, if they were to tell family members, educate them, or you can catch it like this, if you've been back home, you can catch it through operations. If somebody in the older generation, more than likely do have it.
Right.
Because back in the day, they used to have mass vaccinations that used to take place through colleges and schools as well. In our countries, right? If they've had any operations, they've been on the NHS list here, but they've gone back home. Or as a child, like I was at the age of 13, fell ill and was taken to the local GP and had an injection. We call it therapeutic injections because when you go to doctors back home, medical professionals, the first thing they do is give an injection.
Yep,
because the mental concept behind that is that rather than taking a tablet, it's quicker to get an injection.
Intravenous is faster.
But the thing is, it's not intravenous, to inject it into the muscle.
Yep.
So it takes the same amount of time to be digested as a tablet would. And it's safer to take tablets. So if you're travelling abroad, take your own injections, which are available in medical kits as well. Right.
So you can
From
actually
here.
buy them here?
Even, I hope I'm allowed to say, even Boots do like a first aid kit.
Right.
You can get injections in there.
Right.
Whenever I travel back home, I take it from my GP.
All right.
So come on, give me some syringes and needles.
Right.
If I fall ill in Pakistan, I want to be able to have my own supply rather than, buy it from there. And the other thing is, if you are going to have a procedure done abroad, go to a reputable institution. Don't go to any backstreet clinics.
All right, yeah.
But
And does that
be
apply
safe.
to parts of Europe as well, because people go for dental treatment, etc.?
Very much so,
Right.
very much
'Cause
so.
I know quite a few people who go to Turkey, Bulgaria for dental.
Yeah. It's
you know,
keeping your eyes and ears
yeah.
open at the end of
Okay.
the day. You have to, if you've got the knowledge, you will know, you will see. Don't be blindsided,
Right.
someone's opening, oh, we're just going to open up the syringe. Make them open it up in front of you. It has to be out of a package. Any equipment
Sealed
has to be sealed package.
Right. Okay, I mean, that's really fascinating. And I'm sure, my viewers will have learnt quite a lot today from you being here and sharing your knowledge and experience. I hope you found this program interesting. Over the next few weeks, hopefully, we'll be starting more programs, particularly with some of my sister colleagues who are going to be tackling not just health, but other issues around, women, but not exclusive for women. And you'll be hearing more about that over the next few weeks. I will continue to do my show where we talk about health issues, education, employment, inequalities, etc. I'm hoping next week or the week after I'll be having members of parliament come and join me to talk about the politics of this country, what is going, what is happening. And I've got 2 members of parliament hopefully lined up. So I hope you will stay tuned and you'll continue to watch Real Talk and my programs. In the meantime, I wish you all the best. May Allah keep you safe. May Allah keep everybody safe. Please continue to make du'as for us and all those who need du'as, our du'as at this moment in time, wherever they may be. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.